Call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen? Mr. Denton? Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Before we move to our moment of silence, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I wanted to inform you that Mr. Gerald Rasmussen passed away on Saturday, and we'd like for you to keep him in your thoughts and prayers tonight as we go to our moment of silence. He was a PE teacher at Childers Middle School, also taught junior high tennis and ninth grade basketball. So really difficult weekend for the staff and the students there at Childers Middle School, and felt like I needed to say something to you all so that you knew that had occurred. So if you'll keep them in your thoughts and prayers tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Mendenhall. Mr. Steve Majors will lead us in a moment of silence.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in any other silent activity. Thank you.
At this time, the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, to be led by Anna Perry and Mackenzie Wilson. Both are students at Broken Arrow Freshman Academy.
Stand. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm Mackenzie Wilson, and I attend the Freshman Academy. And let me just start by saying we've had such an amazing year so far. What have we been doing? The question is, what haven't we been doing? We kicked off the year by instantly boosting a sense of unity by giving every freshman a wristband that had our adopted slogan, "We are one," on it. We have seen an increase in club activity interest going from only 11 to 16 clubs over the course of the year, with around 1,258 total enrolled in all activities and clubs. We have successfully implemented a team scheduling system with an academic achievement, which is used for built-in club time. These teams created a family atmosphere and team competitions every 9 weeks, and it created a bigger culture of school spirit. On to Anna.
Hello, I'm Anna Perry, and I also attend the Freshman Academy. We've adopted 5 one-to-one Chromebook classrooms and are excited for the incoming freshmen to adopt the one-to-one Chromebooks next year. I'm a little sad that we didn't get them too, but what can you do? We hosted the first annual Black Tie Ball Formal, and it was a huge success. Over half the freshmen attended. We kind of want to come back next year, if that's okay with the incoming freshmen. I think that all of these things we are doing this year helped us get excited for our years to follow at the Broken Arrow High School, and created a buzz through the middle school to get the incoming freshmen pumped up about attending the Freshman Academy next year. It was exciting to be a part of the first year building that foundation and setting up future freshmen for success. I can't believe my time here is coming to an end, and I don't want to leave. Although I will enjoy my 10th through 12th grade years, I'll always remember that we are one.
We're going to take a picture with you if you don't mind. Actually, I'm going to let somebody else step in for me tonight. Why don't we let Mr. Perry step in and take the picture tonight? That might be better. A lot better looking anyway. clue.
Okay, we'll take a couple. How about that? Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. One more time. All right. Go ahead.
Let Dr. Mendenhall get in here. He'll feel left out.
I'm taller anyway.
Okay. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more time. All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are great.
Next item on the agenda is the formal adoption of the agenda. There were no issues or items brought to my attention, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and second to formally adopt the agenda. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item under the minutes are the April 27th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. If there are any questions, I would certainly entertain those. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and second to approve the April 27th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item on the agenda are the comments from the public. Seeing that we do not have any, we'll move to the next item, which are the reports to the board. Ms. Westman.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Mendenhall, and Board. I am glad to report that May has started off successful with the passage of House Bill 1749, which gets rid of payroll deduct. We've already started working with our members on an EFT, and it's just going to be deducted from their checking accounts. It seems to be successful. Also, we started negotiations with the district. It is progressing well. We will continue and conclude with negotiations in June. The committees that meet with the district continue as well, and we also have members of BAEA that sit on those committees, and they continue to report to BAEA, and those seem to be going very well. And with that, I want to thank the board and Dr. Mendenhall for supporting BAEA and your continued support through the years and putting a member on those committees to report back. It has been very successful.
Thank you.
All right.
The next item on the agenda are the general consent agenda items 8 through 45. Again, I have not had anything relative to these issues that need to be set aside, so would entertain a motion.
You good? Make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and second to approve the general consent agenda items 8 through 45. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is the Superintendent Board of Education Communications. The first one being the legislative update. Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Ms. Kelly, members of the board, I have a lot of bills and a lot of action that's been going on the last last couple of weeks, and wanted to make sure that you received all of the information. So I'm going to go through tonight some of the signed bills, if you don't mind, and then we'll go into kind of those that are out there and really hot topics at this point in time. I believe we have the first one is House Bill 1691, which was by Representative Lee Denny. Allows Board of Education in a county of $500,000 and an ADM of $30,000 to contract for administrative services to develop really what's called a charter school. The good thing about this one is they actually moved the number up, and we have 18,400 students, so it still will not really affect us at this point in time. So we were very pleased to see that happen. The next bill is Senate Bill number 5 by Ron Sharp from Shawnee. Exempts education employees from liability for the use of necessary and reasonable force to control and discipline a student during school. It'll be effective 90 days after the adjournment. So there's more to come on this. One of the concerns that I have on this particular bill is just basically what are the details of that. So what we'll probably do is go to our legislative law conference, and we'll have our attorneys really interpret what is reasonable and appropriate. So I know these are meant to be a positive thing for us to be able to deal with students that maybe are not doing what they are supposed to, and how much force and what is reasonable force. But I think there'll be some conversation about that one. The next bill is Senate Bill 782 by Senator Clark Jolly from Edmond. Allows any school district to charter a school within its boundaries. Allows local school boards to determine whether or not a charter can be established. Increases accountability standards for charter school applicants. They did collaborate with all of our associations, and we feel like that there's some parts of this that really could help us long term. You can see kind of a theme. We've got lots of charters, and you're going to see some other things in legislation down the road that I think will also support what are called vouchers. So next bill, Senate Bill number 20 by Senator Ron Sharp again from Shawnee, allows a teacher from out of state within 5 years or with 5 years of teaching experience to teach in Oklahoma. There's really no additional competency exams that are required, and that will be effective July 1st, 2015. This really is the teacher shortage bill because there are some teachers that will come to our state that are certified in other states that have to go through a process, and this will help them with that. Active legislation, and what I wanted to do here is really talk to you about two things. I sent a letter today to the governor and to some of the others, Senate Pro Tem, and also the Speaker of the House today, and we'd like to read that to you. It's regarding the ACT being used as the test that we use instead of the basically end of instruction, and those are the bills that I was going to talk about, so I felt like I needed to read this to you so that you have seen this. I write, Dear Governor Fallon, I'm writing to encourage your support of utilizing the American College Test, ACT, in place of the current state-mandated end of instruction exams. This single exam, one that 75% of Oklahoma graduates already take, would save students, schools, and states significant time, money, and resources, which are currently dedicated to the 7 EOI exams required by law. Additionally, I urge you to support the extension of the Student Reading Proficiency Team as a permanent part of the Reading Sufficiency Act evaluation process. As the superintendent of the Oklahoma's 6th largest school district, which will graduate over 1,100 seniors this year, I can tell you firsthand making this change would be a huge win for our students. Each year, our students lose countless hours of valuable instructional time as they prepare to take EOI exams. This time could be spent in the classroom learning new concepts, enriching the curricula, and preparing students to be college and career ready. All of this could be accomplished with the adoption of the ACT as the measure of mastery for our high school students. Educators across the state agree that ACT makes sense for several reasons. First, it is already proven to be an effective tool in measuring college and career readiness in many other states. It is also the college admission exam chosen by most students and has been a trusted measurement instrument for over 40 years by Oklahoma's institutions of higher education. Additionally, by using the ACT as our end of instruction assessment, we would likely identify students who might not otherwise have considered college because they did not believe they had the qualifications for admission. In addition to the benefits to the students, parents, and educators adopting the ACT as the assessment tool for Oklahoma high school students would also help the state. It would reduce the cost of testing by approximately $5 million each year, savings of which could be reinvested in education. Furthermore, if Oklahoma does not adopt the ACT, additional state resources will be required to develop test items that are tied to our current standards, which will soon be replaced, consequently requiring new test questions. By adopting the ACT now, we can resolve the current and future problem of test development. There are critics of the ACT, and they believe that it may not align with the state standards and are currently being developed. As the leader of a district that is focused on attaining a 100% graduation rate, who has committed district resources to help write the new standards, I can tell you that those concerns are ill-founded. The current PASS standards are considered college and career ready standards, and the new standards will certainly meet that criteria. It stands to reason that regardless of standards, the ACT is a proven tool that measures mastery of the skills students need after graduation in order to be successful in credit-bearing courses in college. With regard to the RSA, I urge you to do what you can to ensure the continuation of the student reading proficiency team. As you know, during the last legislative session, House Bill 2625 provided for a team of those closest to the student, the parent, the teacher, and the principal, to determine the best path for students to be most successful when they failed to demonstrate proficiency on the third grade reading test. As we conclude the second year for this provision, there is overwhelming consensus that the approach is much more valuable and accurate than one test on one day. Unfortunately, the sunset provision of this law mandates this proficiency team will disappear after 2015 unless the legislature acts to extend it. Keeping this team in place and involving the decision-making process is critical for long-term success of students. As we have seen, there is often not one-size-fits-all approach for student literacy at this early age. Students should be evaluated as individuals so appropriate intervention can be implemented, and sometimes holding a student back does more than harm than good. The current provision allows for teams to determine what works for a particular student so they can get the help they deserve. Furthermore, the teams have proven themselves responsible stewards of this important decision-making power, as some students are promoted and some are not, with the ultimate decision based on the student's individual circumstances and skills. We have an opportunity to get testing right. I encourage you to put Oklahoma students first by supporting the adoption of the ACT as our state's assessment tool for high school students, and to extend the student proficiency team as a permanent part of the RSA. Those most closely connected to the education agree these are the best options for assessment, and I hope I can count on your support as well. Sincerely. I wanted you to hear that because that has basically gone to everybody. And I wanted you to know that in that whole process, it's very important that those two things are dealt with this year, because what will happen is we're probably closer than we've ever been on getting rid of the EOIs. Remember that the EOIs only give you a chance to pass. You have to pass 4 out of 7, and you have to pass them to get your diploma. The ACT would really be a much better, it's a norm reference test. It's really a much better way of measurement. The RSA is also something that I'm pretty passionate about, because a third grade reading, we want to make sure that kids are on level or above in reading, but we also need to make sure that we always consider that the people that are closest to the student really need to make those decisions. Me as the superintendent should not make that decision, and we certainly shouldn't let the legislature make that kind of decision. So I really believe it should be the parent, the teacher, and the principal in those sites making those decisions. So wanted you to know that letter was sent today. Hopefully she read all of it. I don't know if she will. It was a pretty long letter, but I do believe that it was the right thing to do. Senate Bill 707. This is by John Ford from Bartlesville. This is a vehicle to allow the ACT or another test to demonstrate college and career readiness. Hopefully, again, some of that we'll go through. There's a lot of amendments and different things that are being added to that. Senate Bill 630. Senate Bill 630, again by Senator Ford. Primary remaining bills to address weaknesses in Reading Sufficiency Act would extend the reading proficiency teams, which could be a really positive thing, as I stated earlier. The Senate has rejected the House amendments, and the bill is now in conference committee. The next one is Senate Bill 706. Are you seeing a pattern? Senator John Ford. This would implement a one-year delay in the full implementation of TLE in the evaluation. Senate rejected the House amendments, and the bill is now in conference committee, and we believe now that will probably be given another year before that comes back up. So I'll try to answer any questions or thoughts or comments you have. I know there's so much out there that you kind of have to drill down what are the most important points that we want to share, but wanted you to have really the big ones that and I didn't even talk about funding, but wanted you to have those.
As far as the legislature adjourning or when the last day may be that they deal with these particular amendments, et cetera, that's the end of this month. So are you hearing anything relative to that RSA or any of those other issues that you were speaking about? Are you hearing that will be resolved, or is it more so the other end that most likely it's not going to get any resolution?
I think what this week will tell us a lot, because I picked up the paper this week and it looked like they wanted to go home early. And I don't think they should. I think they've got a lot of work to do, but not for me to say. I would say if there's some things this week, there's some things that could happen, and then if it doesn't happen this week, I would say that it's probably going to be postponed and probably pushed off into another legislative session. So I'm feeling pretty good about the RSA. It's the ACT that I'm not real sure that will happen. I do think the RSA will keep the team. ACT, I think there's a lot of conversation back and forth on that.
And it is the tie to the Common Core on that issue that's causing some hesitation.
Yes, there's a lot of yes, it's part of that, and I think that's what they've used as somewhat of an excuse because of this, the national standards and their idea that shouldn't be attached to it at all. But as I wrote in the letter, I mean, ACT's been around a long time, and it may align, but ACT is probably going to align with whatever standards or objectives that we come up in the state anyway, because it is always looked at and reviewed and has been that way for a long time.
Are there other questions?
What kind of score do you think you'd have to get on the ACT? I mean, does that even come up?
Great question. The good thing is that they cannot legislate the cut score. That will be up to really promulgating any rules that would be happening through the State Department of Education, which I have much more faith in the State Department under this current leadership. But we have a feeling that it will be a cut score that will be kind of a sliding scale. I don't know if you know much about the NCAA and getting into college athletics, but they have what's called a sliding scale, and we feel like that work keys and all of the other things that go with ACT will actually help play into that and make it a positive, rather than they'll have a cut score, but
it won't just be a one-time test.
It won't be. It'll be, you'll be able to take it numerous times. You'll have different sections that will be scored. You'll also have things working up to that will help qualify you.
And the district would pay for that?
Yes, yes. I don't know how many, Dr. Dunlop, you might know how many students we have that take the ACT every year from just from Broken Arrow.
As far as the numbers, I don't have a number off the top of my head, but we can pull up a percentage. I want to say it's around 70%.
Yeah, it's pretty high number, you know, that take it already.
Right.
Know this though, and this is kind of, I thought this was interesting too. We've had some information from the ACT folks, and what they've told us is that there are other states that have gone to this, and their scores, of course, if every student's taking it, your scores are going to go down for a period of time, but they use Illinois as a kind of a reference point for Oklahoma. The scores have now gone back up, and they are at the same as they were before they required the ACT in Illinois. So I think that's really a positive and something that we should really consider. My fear in not doing it right now, to be honest, it's the first time we've had any traction in probably 4 or 5 years on this topic, and it just scares me not to go ahead and
Keep going.
move forward. So,
Other questions? Dr. Mendenhall, I believe you're up on the next item.
I believe the next item is really an opportunity for me to do some introductions, and kind of exciting times. You know, every year I go through this, and I need to make sure that I know every time I think I have everybody put together or actually have a plan, we make changes. So this year we had an opportunity to make some movements, and it's my pleasure tonight to introduce 3 of those changes to you. The first one tonight is Miss Gina Koster. Gina has been a director of elementary special ed in our district for the last 3 years, and she's really done a great job. And in that project, or in that program, she has really done a great job working with Carol Grubin and really working through different things. Well, Carol has decided to retire, which is, I'm very saddened by that, but I know that it's you know, one of those things that she's thought long and hard about, but she's decided to retire. And so it gave us a chance to really kind of reorganize our instructional department. So what we've done is we've moved Gina Koster into the Executive Director of Academic Programs. There will be 3 big areas that will report up through Gina. We will have our assessment and testing area that will report up through her. Gene Brassfield is over that area, but Gina will help. And then we also have another area called Federal Programs. You know that Shannon Turner is the director of those programs, so the federal programs. And then we will hire a director of special education. So Gina basically will be over all 3 program directors, and will kind of oversee that. She has a bachelor's degree in special education. Her master's is in public school administration. She's really close to having her doctorate completed, so very proud of her on that. I think she's going to the right university to do that, University of Oklahoma. I'll be introducing another University of Oklahoma person here in a minute that I'm very proud of, but that's right. Gina actually began her career in Skytook as a special ed teacher. She was at Union for a little while. She went to Tulsa Public for 2 years and was an administrator there. So tonight I'm just really proud to introduce and kind of tell you a little bit about Gina Koster. Gina, would you please stand? Okay, the next one on our list. Oh, you do have family. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Introduce.
My husband couldn't be here tonight, so in honor of Mother's Day, I brought my always supportive mother, and my youngest daughter, and I have another daughter that graduates on Wednesday. She couldn't be here tonight either. And this is my brother's daughter, my niece, Grace.
All Okay, the next person I want to talk to you a little bit tonight, Miss Debbie Renz. Debbie Renz, we're going to name her as our Director of Special Education. I'm very proud of Debbie. Debbie has done a fabulous job in our school district. If you think about the roles and responsibilities that she's had over the years, she's had lots of really high-level positions, but she's also she's taught. You know, she taught in the district for actually her first assignment. I really wish I was with her during that assignment because she was in Hawaii, I believe, for 2 years or 3 years. And so she taught over in Hawaii, and then she came back to Broken Arrow. She was a special education teacher for 12 years. She also spent some time as the principal at the Alternative Academy. And then after that was the K-12 curriculum director. She went over to the high school, took on a huge job as high school principal, and has done a fabulous job there for the last 2 years. And we're bringing her back to kind of her roots and what she started with, and that's special education. So let me kind of tell you a little bit about her background. She graduated from NSU. I believe she got her master's there as well. And we're just excited to have Miss Debbie Renz as the Director of Special Education. So Debbie, would you please stand? She has JJ and Bob here, which that's as good as family right there. So we're glad to have you. My last one to present to you tonight, again, actually a Sooner through and through. I never really knew this until I started reading about her. Yeah. Started reading about her and really found out a little bit about what she's done in the past. Liz Burns has been just kind of a jewel. She has been somebody that's been in our district for quite some time. She's been here 35 years as an educator. All of the time has been all of the 35 years has been with BA. She started out she was at Haskell for quite a while. She went from Haskell and to the high school, and from the high school to an assistant principal at Haskell, and then went to Childers Middle School. So she has been the Childers Middle School principal for the last 15 years. And I think this is their 30th year, I believe, at Childers Middle School. And we're just really proud of her, glad for her, really know that, it's kind of one of those things that I think in the back of her mind, it's always been kind of a passion and something that she's always wanted to do. And so I'm very excited for her and that opportunity. So introduce to you tonight Miss Liz Burns, and I believe she's got family here. So Miss Burns, could you please stand?
Go Cubs.
What I love about it, her last graduate hours were in journalism from the University of Oklahoma, but she won't tell you that. She won't tell you that. We're really excited for you. I think we're having some type of meet and greet for her. I believe it's later next week, isn't it? 27. So I'd encourage you guys, if you can be there, that'd be fantastic. So glad to have her. Glad to have Miss Coster. Glad to have Miss Renz. And really You know how the spring is. We always have a lot of movement and wanted you to be aware of those folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mendenhall. Next item on the agenda is Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, as Casey mentioned, we have begun negotiations. We started on May 7th. The primary purpose of that was to discuss the return to work stipend. So we have tentatively agreed to that. So there will be a staff development on May 29th, and then the distribution will be on the return to work as far as the first day back for the back to school kickoff. We did present the options and discuss options of having it in November, but for consistency we decided to keep it the way it was and then survey staff to see which they prefer moving into the future if we were to have a stipend in the future. And also, as Casey mentioned, we will have the remaining portion of the negotiations from June 16th through the 18th here at this building. That we've gotten a list of items to discuss, and so I don't anticipate any issues. We'll be able to work through most everything that's on that list fairly quickly, and then be ready for ratification when we get back from summer. So I don't know if you have any specific questions about any of that, but the stipend itself will remain. Basically, the criteria will be the same. We'll have the PD. If you're on staff, we've already started getting questions because they started establishing what we're going to do on the PD day and all that. There'll be people that are on contract for that, the 29th, and so there'll be makeup days, and then there'll also be people who cannot be there on that day, whether ill or have already scheduled something since it was the day after school's out. So there'll be additional PD days that HR will manage as they had in the past and try to give as many days as possible from now till August to get as many people opportunities to make up those days. So there'll be a variety of opportunities and a variety of things to do for that PD time. And so we anticipate it'll go as smoothly as it has in the past, and we'll utilize the sign up from the individual campuses because it will be at the campuses this year, and then be able to process from there. So I don't know if you have any questions or.
Well, I certainly want to thank you and the association leadership for the time that you put into that. I do think it's greatly beneficial not only to those that are represented, but certainly to the district as a whole. So just thank you for that. And are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Under Communication Services, Ms. Amanda Summers.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I bring to you tonight the discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the grant application and receipt of funds for Kelly Sutton, a teacher at Country Lane Primary, for a Cox Charities grant in the amount of $10,000.
Are there any questions?
Nope. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the grant application and receipt of funds for Kelly Sutton, teacher at Country Lane Primary, for a Cox Charities grant in the amount of $10,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Michelle Bergwald.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I have a couple of items for you tonight as we continue to line out our summer project work. The first item I have tonight is the paving bids for both the Freshman Academy and the high school. We bid those projects together with various alternates and some unit prices. And as you can see, we're spending $173,000 on the high school campus to fix the worst portions of the high school parking lot. This will not fix all of the potholes, but it will fix the potholes that could swallow a Volkswagen. So we think that that is very important. It also will not address all of the drainage issues, but we feel this is important work that needs to take place this summer, and we ask for your approval tonight.
What would it take to fix the high school parking lot?
To fix the high school parking lot, we're probably looking at a total price tag of about $2 million, because to ultimately fix it, we need to address the drainage. Currently, the parking lot sheet drain to the borrow ditches or to the exposed ditch banks, and most of the parking lot holds water because it doesn't sheet drain very well. So to really fix it, we need to pipe that stormwater to storm sewers, which are not improved in the area. The city will be doing that as they improve Albany, and we'll have more opportunities as we move through the years. But to ultimately fix the parking lots, we need to fix and address the drainage, and we are not able to do that at this time.
What do you think we've spent on that in the last 5 years?
Well, the front parking lots we did fix and pipe to storm sewers. They were part of the large construction project of the addition, and I would imagine those parking lots were $500,000 to $600,000 to fix those lots, and then we have the back lots, which are the majority. So we did some patchwork 3 years ago, which was about $200,000 there.
Okay.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second. We have a motion and second to approve general construction contract for the Broken Arrow High School and Freshman Academy paving project to the lowest responsible bidder, Paragon Contractors of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the amount of $240,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
My second item tonight is for an access controlled gate to our transportation facility. It's actually our transportation maintenance facility now that maintenance has moved out there. We finally got that facility cleaned up, got everything paved, and now we need better access to the facility. This will help us keep the site locked down since we have all of our fleet vehicles out there and quite a bit of the district equipment. This will allow us basically card access in and out of the transportation facility. So this will help our after hours access for coaches, our early morning hours for bus drivers. We'll have chips in the buses so where the bus can drive up to it and the gate will open. And then after hours you can have a code to get in and out. I know the other night we locked some coaches in. So this will help us prevent from doing that. This will not be an access control gate on the back side. This will just be on Joliet, but it'll allow us for that after hours access that we desperately need.
Okay. Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve?
Second. We have a motion and second to approve the installation of one access control gate at the transportation facility in the amount of $35,410. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Brian Daly.
Good evening. Most of my agenda items are centered around our one-to-one initiative for this next school year. So in front of you, I have given you guys a Google Chromebook along with the case that we are going to utilize with the software on it that you can pass amongst yourselves so you can take a look at what we're speaking of. I'm going to go ahead and start out with the first agenda item, which is request to approve the purchase of 1,400 ASUS Chromebooks for the Student One-to-One Initiative at the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy, which will begin next August, the 2015-16 school year, in the amount of $338,016. And the lowest vendor on that is Zones. And this will be paid for out of 2009 bond funds. And I'll take any questions if you have on those
Mr.
particular
Daly,
devices. Yes.
relative to the bid, what were we able to ultimately get the Chromebooks for?
So through the bid process, Ms. Metavelis did an amazing job getting this bid out and getting everybody lined out on it. And we've actually been able to come down on the price since the One to Stay pilot, where we purchased close to 200 of these in January. The original price for that Chromebook device started out at upwards around $260 each. Through the bid process, we're now able to get that device for $206 a piece. What you see in front of you, and with this bid, it also includes the Chromebook, the Google Chrome license, the GoGuardian license, which is our anti-theft, our internet filtering to be SEPA compliant, and also includes the shipping. So everything that you see in front of you comes to the $241.44, if you will, like a technology package, if you will, with all the items that I just mentioned. So we were able to come down significantly with that bid process.
Other questions?
I know the next agenda item has to do with the covers, but how durable are these if they're dropped, for example?
So we chose more of a nylon vinyl type cover that was thicker instead of a cloth-based material that would get dirty. These have been tested at a 3-story height with the Chromebook in them with no damage. Not that I think we'll have some thrown from 3-story, but you could have the potential bus window. So we wanted to make sure that we had a case that would, not just for a student that may get upset and throw it, but that size of case was important to us so that they could not only carry it, but they could also fit it into their backpack, because it's roughly the size of a regular sized textbook if you look at it with the Chromebook in it.
So this is something they'll take on, have all year long.
Correct.
And if they lose it?
If they lose it, they're covered with insurance plan. The first year, ASUS covers it, damage protection, no questions asked. After that, there's an insurance plan that parents will be able to opt into. It's at $26. They're covered, bumper to bumper.
When they enroll, is that?
Scheduled pickup, yes, sir. So,
Okay.
pretty comprehensive plan. Student Chrome Desk will be launched at the Freshman Academy. You'll have about 3 students per hour at the Freshman Academy who will work on the Chromebook devices as part of their schedule, and they will be trained on how to repair and fix the Chromebooks. We'll receive parts in from the manufacturer. They'll learn how to do hardware replacement and things of that nature. So it'll be a kind of a self-sufficient type of system.
So is it much like your checked out textbooks at the beginning of the year? You're checked out one of these and you're responsible for that one? Is that?
Correct. So they'll go through a process at scheduled pickup where they'll pay for their insurance, receive the device, get their software initialized, get their Google login, their Canvas login, get their case issued, get green stickered, get their schedule, head home, be able to use it over the summer. They'll come back prepared after using it over the summer for their first day of 9th grade. So we've been working since last summer in conjunction with instruction and Ms. Coates over at the Freshman Academy. Very intense process. We've covered about every angle we could think of, and at this point we're at the point where we're able to get good pricing and the bids have come in, and we still have a full summer of work after these come in to get ready for the students, but everything's coming together nicely. So it's been a year process to get to this point.
You might talk to them about there'll be some type of insurance contract of sorts. What are we talking about on cost? What are we talking about for that? And then do they keep these for throughout the year? Are they ever checked back in? How does that going to play out?
So we've looked at other districts, and they have opted to allow the students to keep those over the summertime instead of dealing with the logistics of receiving in 5,000 Chromebooks and trying to issue that same one back to that student at scheduled pickup. It'll be a $26 insurance fee annually. We will be the lowest in our region with that. To give an example, Jinx Public Schools charged $35 for their insurance policy. They had about a 94% opt-in rate on that. Doing the math and the percentage, we thought that we could go lower and still have a substantial activity fund established to be able to sustain the Chrome Desk, and with about a 4 to 5% break fix rate. We'll have a pretty healthy 6-figure activity fund with a break fix rate of 4% to 5% of that. So what that's going to do is help pay for scholarshiping students, help pay for professional development for teachers, help pay for some of the repairs and maintenance and parts for the Chrome Desk. So the activity fund from the insurance policy will sustain the whole initiative, not just the device, but everything included in the device, the case, charger, everything. So for example, an insurance policy will cover the Chromebook, the charging cord, the case, the screen, the keyboard, the charging port, and the hinge. 98% of the time, it's the screen that has to be replaced. So in the 2 years we've analyzed other districts on the Chromebooks, it's almost always the screen. That screen's about $60 to replace. So a $26 insurance fee is pretty low when you look at that, and being that's really the only thing that ever breaks. Occasionally you have a keyboard. But the fact, there's not a hard drive on those. It's all cloud-based, and it's really the screen that breaks on those. So we feel the $26, we're able to self-insure with a district our size. We hope to get a similar buy-in rate as our neighbors or district next door. If we can hit 90%, we're going to be good. If we can get parents to opt in, and then their students covered for the duration of their time here.
So for the student's parent that doesn't participate or opt in, and if they were then to lose the device, then what would be the cost?
So there's a fee schedule that we will issue to parents upon scheduled pickup, and they'll be able to opt in or opt out of the insurance. And the first incident, they're 100% covered, okay, even with ASUS. So if you opt out of the insurance and you lose it, you're covered by ASUS for that first year. The second time, you're not covered under insurance, so that Chromebook is going to cost that parent, the $206, which was our bid price. So if they opt out, that's the reason we have the insurance schedule, so that when they sign at scheduled pickup, they know exactly what each part costs and what they're going to have to pay if they don't provide the insurance. Now, let's say one's lost and they decide to pay the $206 for a new Chromebook. If they want to buy insurance at that time, they can. The following school year, they can opt into insurance as well. If they maybe chose not to get it in 9th grade and felt that they had to buy 2 screens for my kid, I'm going to go ahead and purchase the insurance 10th grade. So we have a fee schedule outlined in accordance with the parts we feel are going to break at the largest percentage.
They can't get on Facebook or anything with this, can they?
So we use a product called Go Guardian, which is basically treats the student as if they were in the classroom, even if they're at home. So it goes through the same filtering requirements as if they were in the school district. It also flags us. It allows us to block everything from videos to certain key terms, even if the student is at home. Allows us to find devices that have been stolen. It has GPS. It has other theft monitoring tools we're able to locate. The police departments in the area have been very responsive in locating these Chromebooks that have been stolen. Usually when they locate a Chromebook for a district and they seize it from an individual, the individual is usually wanted for something besides a Chromebook as well. So they're more than willing to help us out. So the Go Guardian mimics the student in the classroom while they're at home. They're only able to do what we allow them.
And so at school, the Wi-Fi that we have will be strong enough to support that, and then they can use their own Wi-Fi at home?
Correct. So one of the following agenda items is to shore up the wireless infrastructure at both Freshman Academy and the high school. We'll place wireless access points in every classroom at both of those sites. So the student will connect to the Wi-Fi at school. They'll use the Canvas learning management system. And then when they go home to connect, or they could be in a common area, they could be at a public library, they could be on vacation in a hotel, they'll be able to access Canvas. If a student does not have wireless directly accessible to them, Canvas is designed so as soon as they walk in the district, they're able to download their homework, work on it offline. As soon as they hit the next hotspot or Wi-Fi access point, it automatically syncs back up to the system. So the capabilities of this device allow you to work offline until you're able to seek out a hotspot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I have one more. The $241.44, the bid price, how long will they keep that price? For instance, next year we'll be buying 3 times this amount.
Yes,
so
sir.
do you anticipate rebidding at that point, or will this price be good at that time?
So the vendor we have chosen, and I'm sure the others would have, but we specifically asked this vendor since they were the winning bid. They have agreed to keep this price point through next June 30th, which I anticipate we would make the high school purchase prior to that. They've also agreed to honor if there's a model change in mid-year from this device. Usually you'll see one around November where they'll attempt a model change. Same Chromebook, they'll add an extension to it, and they've agreed to keep that same pricing even if there's a model change through next June 30th. So that'd be, 2016. So we'll get good pricing enough to where we'll be able to budget and look forward based on knowing what we're gonna get for the next year.
If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of 1,400 ASUS Chromebooks C200 MA for student one-to-one initiative at the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy in the amount of $338,016. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item.
Yes, our next item revolves around the same initiative. This would be for the actual Chromebook case that you have in front of you. This was a sole source vendor, which is why we had it separate from the other technology package prior to this. So I'm asking the board to approve the purchase of 1,400 Chromebook cases for use with the Chromebooks for the school year 2015-16 at the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy from sole source vendor Sunrise High Tech of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $30,525 with payment from 2009 bond fund.
Mr. Daly, could you speak to a little bit about how the device itself opens up and how the case protects it and how it was selected a little bit so that...
Sure. So we went through many cases. Cases are a dime a dozen. We need specifically the right fit for a 15-year-old at our freshman academy. So we had to look at that. We looked at other districts. So we selected one that not only lightweight but was durable, would stay cleaner than some of the ones that we've seen come through that were more cloth material, where they'd be able to also carry their accessories. We also opted for one with a over-the-shoulder strap and a handle so they could choose. It was also right size to fit inside of a backpack. And then, of course, we partnered up with Jinx. They bought a similar bag, a slightly different model, but we partnered up with them when we did our drop test from one of their 3-story facilities with the Chromebook in it. So they went with a similar model as this, almost identical, just a different SKU. So we were looking at durability just because of the age group. And we felt if they had them all year, especially through the summer, we wanted to make sure that Chromebook stayed in good shape. It's, to answer your question as well, it's designed so that they don't have to take the Chromebook out of the case. So as soon as they unzip it, flip the lid of the case, the Chromebook comes on, it's fired up in just literally 3-4 seconds, and their work's right in front of them. They can close the case itself and the Chromebook's off. So none of this taking a device in and out of a case and having to worry about separate items.
Are there other questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of 1,400 Chromebook cases for use with Chromebooks purchased for the one-to-one initiative beginning the 2015-16 school year at the Broken Arrow Freshman Academy from the sole source vendor Sunrise High Tech of Chicago, Illinois in the amount of $30,525. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item.
Yes, the next item is also one of the questions that we had earlier from Ms. Williamson. This is also part of the one-to-one initiative to prepare for that initiative next August. This would be the upgrade for the Freshman Academy and Broken Arrow High School, and it would be for 333 wireless access points for the freshman academy and the high school from peak uptime in the amount of $283,047.72 with payment from 2009 bond funds. And this also includes 34 network switches that the access points connect to. What this would do, we would remove all of the existing wireless, which is still relatively good from both sites, bring those down to our existing elementaries and put those in elementary classrooms. And we would take this newer standard of wireless and it would be placed in every single classroom at the freshman academy and the high school to include common areas. And what this would allow us to do is accommodate these 1,400 Chromebooks coming in to the freshman academy, but it will also allow Chromebook carts and other one-to-stay initiatives to start to flourish at the high school in preparation for the following school year, so that teachers and administration feels more confident utilizing laptops in the classrooms at the high school. That way when these 9th graders come up and we do 9 through 12, we'll be ready. So that's the reason we want to shore up that infrastructure at both those sites this summer.
Questions?
That ought to pretty much do the 09 bond fund, ain't it?
We spent our money well on it and bid well, so we still have some good funds left out of that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of 34 Extreme Network switches and 333 access points for the Broken Arrow High School and Broken Arrow Freshman Academy from peak uptime in the amount of $283,047.72. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item.
So my last item is also directly related to the last agenda item. This would be the cabling that would go inside every classroom at the freshman academy and the high school to accommodate for the Wi-Fi access points. So this agenda item is asking to approve the 228 cable drops for classroom and common areas located at the freshman academy and the high school from Linear Communications of Broken Arrow in the amount of $39,786 with payment from 2009 bond fund.
Questions on this?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the cost of cabling 228 classrooms and common areas located at Broken Arrow Freshman Academy and at the Broken Arrow High School from Linear Communications, Inc. of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma in the amount of $39,786. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good job.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. Grant Moore.
Good evening. I'm seeking your approval of the purchase of 2 sets of the Nomad table system. These tables allow for the changing of the tabletops between bistro size and tabletop size, and it gives us a lot of flexibility on feeding the high school students in various locations. And this is for 2 sets, which would be 40 tables total, in the amount of $30,000 from Thompson's Educational Furnishings with payment from the Child Nutrition Funds.
Questions?
You're gonna need them.
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of 2 Nomad table system sets for the high school campus from Thompson Educational Furnishings in the amount of $30,000 with payment from Child Nutrition. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item under instructional services, Dr. Janet Dunlop.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. Tonight before you, you have some information that is trend data that indicates 26 years worth of data that represents our National Merit Scholarship finalists and semifinalists. We had to contact the National Merit folks and actually go back this many years to get all of this information. We compiled it in a timeline so that you can see an indication of how that trend data goes up and down from 1990 all the way up to 2015. So with a little background information, the National Merit Scholar finalists are selected from the field of National Merit semifinalists. These are determined at the beginning of each school year, and they're based on the results of the PSAT exam that they take from the previous fall. So they take it, and then the following year in their senior year, then they find out usually around October whether they are selected. Semifinalists are selected by state. A lot of people think because it has national on it that these are students who are selected from a national pool, but instead each state has their cutoff of scores that are in that range of National Merit Scholarship. And those students indicate the 99th percentile, so it's very, very difficult. What we found is through the years, more and more and more students are actually taking the PSAT, so that affects the scores significantly. So since 2002, as an example, that cutoff score of what qualifies a student as a semifinalist or a finalist, just since 2002 has risen 7 points. And this is in a score range that usually merit scholarships are around 206. So just that fluctuation of 7 points can make a huge difference. For perspective, this year, over 6, I think there were 7 students that were within 3 points of hitting that mark. So 1 or 2 test questions can make all the difference in the world. Something we know about merit scholarship finalists is that just like we start with our athletes very, very young, this is something you start in elementary school to find those students who tend to excel above and beyond their peers, and you give them opportunities and expose them to things that put them in a position to be a National Merit Scholarship finalist. So this year, these students that we have as Merit Scholarship finalists were in 8th grade when we first started to really address this as a goal within our district. As a result of looking at what our numbers have done fluctuating back and forth, we're starting to do things like addressing middle school gifted and talented. For years we've said, well, we have pre-AP. Well, pre-AP does not begin to address the needs of those students who are really, really high. We're also next year really, and we've started this year as well, really addressing those elementary students who are accelerated in math. We're starting also with our 8th grade students this year, offering them opportunities to take geometry during summer school for first-time credit. Puts them a step ahead, a whole year ahead in math, which we know is a huge indicator of merit scholarship success. So all that to say, the next 3 to 5 years will be very telling. But something I would like to point out in the data is as you look at our beginning mark, which is 1990, we had 6 finalists and 2 semifinalists. In 2015, we had 5 finalists and 1 semifinalist. So you see those numbers are very similar. There's not a whole lot of difference in the last 26 years. We're hoping from what we're doing now, we will see a big difference. A couple of high points that we saw. In 1992, we had 10 finalists and 1 semifinalist. But as you indicate, if you see on the bottom part of the chart that I've given you, indications of things that may have caused that. Up to that point, all of the math portion of the PSAT was computation only, so all the students had to do was be able to calculate correctly. Well, once they started building up and having more and more finalists, they recalibrated the test, they changed the math portion, and so then the math portion was content change, or had a content change that was free response. So as a result, we went from 10 finalists to 2 years later only having 2. So you see every time they change tests, it's just like our state exams. When they recalibrate, when they change, our scores go down, then they'll climb back up again. Our highest point was in 1996. We had 13 finalists and 2 semifinalists. But the commentary below indicates that after that year, PSAT recentered the scores because they had more perfect scores nationwide than ever in history. So we reaped the rewards of that year. They recalibrated. Within the next year, we dropped down to less than half that. So we see several high points, but what this tells us from this trend data is we're going to see kind of a wave motion until we start to pinpoint exactly what are those things that we can do starting in elementary to produce those semifinalists and finalists once they get to high school. And that's how we'll know we have the same effect that we do when we address athletes early and build them as athletes.
Dr. Dunlop, I know that, and I do appreciate very much this information. I think at times, historically, maybe, there are individuals who don't have all of the information to really be able to make some informed or have informed conversations around this.
Yes.
And I do think that it's imperative that we as a school district certainly put that information out there so that our patrons know that we're well aware of the historical data and we are doing what's necessary to follow it, and we are making adjustments as we need to address obtaining or getting more of our students to qualify as national merit finalists. So I know that's kind of a statement, but can you share just how will we share this information besides this board meeting with our community?
Sure. You know, we had a little conversation at our retired educators breakfast on this, but I think it would be prudent to go ahead once we really get this tight and have a clean copy to go ahead and post it on the website. It's not secret, it's public knowledge. I see no reason why we can't have this as indication of how we're progressing in our goal to reach more merit scholarship status.
Well, and the other thing, you know, I think this is my 25th or 6th year in education, and until you really kind of dive deeper into the data, you really don't understand what's happened and how the changes have occurred. I thought it was so interesting. In 2005, we had 12 finalists, but the same thing happened. 939 students nationwide made perfect scores.
Right.
So what they did is they recalibrated. Too many people made perfect scores, so they changed it. The next year we have 8, then 5. I mean, I do think that you know, because it's been really, to be quite honest with you, kind of frustrating because we had really worked hard to try to improve. But I think the real proof in this is that when we get them at younger ages and we begin to work with them there, I think we may see the fruits of our labor at that point once they matriculate up. And you know, the other thing too to always consider is everyone else is working hard too. Everybody else is doing camps for their AP students in the summertime so that they can score better. Everyone else is doing the same thing that we're doing. So it sounds like to me that it will always probably move at some point.
I think we will continue to have some fluctuation. Interestingly enough, it seems like we've been working for a long time on this, but 2012 was the first year that we actually tested all of our students. So it was that following year that we started seeing indications. So we went from 2 to 5. In that first year, we saw another drop, but then we bumped back up again. So I think we're going to have some bumps for a while, and then it's going to be another 3 to 5 years out before we see indication of what we've done at the elementary and middle school to come to fruition. If we don't see the results we have at that point, then of course we'll adjust and we'll find other ways to address that.
Well, I do think one of the really good pieces of news here is that we continue to dialogue with all of our constituency, and if there are ideas or concerns or issues that are brought to the district's attention, certainly we need to be very mindful of that as we progress and move forward to address it. And I think this is part of it. It's getting the information out there, making people be more part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Ms. Carol Grubin.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, and members of the board. I'd like to share with you tonight some information about special education in Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow has historically had an excellent special ed program, and we have served approximately 14% of our student population on IEPs for the last 20 to 25 years. It has varied very little from that 14%. The state ranges from about 10% to 18%, and Broken Arrow is right in the middle of that. You have some charts that go through the different categories, and I just want to summarize some of the high points that are of interest. Our learning disabilities population actually has dropped since 2004, 2005. And part of that drop is due to the increase in the discrepancy that is required for eligibility, but it's also due to the interventions and the supports that we're providing in the general classroom. In addition to that, some students are now being categorized other health impaired due to an attention deficit, and in the past those students were categorized as specific learning disability. We've had a decline in the number of students that are intellectually disabled. That's partially due to improved health, prenatal health, and less birth trauma. And it's also a more accurate diagnosis of autism. Many of the students years ago that are autistic now were diagnosed as intellectually disabled or ED in the previous years. We've had a decline in the number of students served as emotionally disturbed. However, as those numbers have declined, the severity of the students being served in that program has certainly increased in the last few years. The DD population has significantly increased when you look at those charts. The age range for developmentally delay has gone from 6 to 9, and now it is at 10, so there is a broader range of students eligible within that category. And then school districts are serving younger and younger students. Special ed has always served from 3 on up, but many of the parents didn't realize that school districts had services for the typical population, and many of those students are now entering under the category of developmental delay. Speech has remained consistently at about the same percentage. Our students that are being served for articulation has actually gone down, and the number of students being served for language development has increased. In many of our speech students now, speech is a related service rather than a direct service without other special education services. Our deaf ed population has significantly decreased. Many years ago, Broken Arrow had a deaf ed program that served pretty much the area with the exception of Tulsa. We had students transferring in from as far as Glenpool, around the eastern part of the state. We have decreased the number of students that we take on transfer in our deaf ed program, and we've gone from 8 or 9 teachers to really just a couple of teachers serving that program. Our deaf ed students are now in the gen ed classrooms with support from interpreters. Our VI population has slightly gone up in the last few years. More and more students are being diagnosed with visual impairments, and so we're serving those students in the gen ed population mostly with consultative services. We do have some students that are multi that also would be categorized visually impaired. The greatest increase has been in the autism population. Part of that, back in 1975, the incidence rate in autism was 3 in 1,000. And now, depending on what study you look at, the incidence rate is 1 in 47 to 1 in 65. So you can see a significant difference in the incidence rate that is of autism in the school population. With that, we have a lot of students that are moving in with the diagnosis of autism, and we have a lot of physicians that are just diagnosing autism based on one visit in a doctor's office or maybe a report from a parent. We get those students, we have to evaluate them, determine whether or not they really need services in the school environment. But as a result, we have more students that are being served in that population. We are very careful to make sure that they really need services within the school program. We have services on a continuum for that autism population, and we have many students that actually have a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis, but they're not placed on an IEP. They can be served on a 504, and many of them are served in a gen ed program really without supports other than minor accommodations that a typical teacher would provide. But we've had a lot of changes in special ed, and in summary, what's happening is our population shifts, but our percentage of students being served across the district has remained right at 14% for about 20 to 25 years.
Well, I really appreciated the detail in the information that was provided, and I certainly know that we've always had a district that served a great deal or a great number of special needs population, but getting these charts and actually reviewing and going through how we've changed over the course of many years is certainly helpful. It's helpful to see how we are serving our students here in Broken Arrow. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your service. to Broken Arrow Public Schools for all that you've done for the special education department. You're going to be a great loss to our school community, and I wanted to just thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you. It's
Thank you.
been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
You'll have to just come back and visit a board meeting sometime. They got my joke. That's the first one they've had all year that they've gotten.
Next item on the agenda is the ACE report. Mr. Mark Officer.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. Just a real quick report to kind of give you a few pieces of data regarding current status of our seniors regarding meeting ACE requirements. This first slide that we'll throw up indicates that we currently have 58, that's really small, sorry if you can't read that, 58 students who have not met all ACE requirements. The next slide will go on into more details about the ACE law. As you know, it requires passage of 4 of 7 EOIs. 2 of those 4 must be Algebra 1 and English 2. So this slide breaks it down just a little bit more to show that we have just a few not passing Algebra 1 and English 2 at this point. That next slide shows the other 5 EOI tests and how many students have not passed 2 of those possible 5, which currently is at 37. Next slide, we get a little bit more detailed and actually breaks it down to students who have not passed, or actually it talks about who have passed at least 1 subject and then on up to 4 subjects, including or not including Algebra 1 or English 2. And then the next slide, am I going too fast? Okay. I didn't think so, it's late. Next slide again goes into details about how many students have passed each individual EOI test. You'll notice that our lowest are Algebra 2 and Biology. Biology has kind of been a moving target of late. That cut score changes every now and then, it seems like. So I think that's created some problems for our kids. But and then the next slide again shows how many kids have met the legal requirement in some manner other than the EOI, and that's broken down by subject area. Again, biology is pretty high there, almost twice as much as everything else. And then the last slide that we have, just a little bit of historical data, compares last year to this year, number of students who at this time had not met all ACE requirements. And then the green bar shows number of students who had not met ACE requirements after spring EOIs. We obviously don't have that data yet for this year. The window will be closing soon, and then we'll get 48-hour reports and be able to get that data for you. And I will caution you and say that these numbers will change as we continue to move forward and get those EOI scores back. And we'd be happy to bring more information to the June meeting if you'd like.
Any questions?
So, Mr. Officer, if there's any silver lining in this, we have fewer this year than last year.
We're getting better.
And then we still have, 2 or 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, the EOIs, we haven't been able to get those scores back yet for this spring. So hopefully that number of 58 will drop significantly when those seniors have had another shot at the EOI. And then also, lots of seniors have some more data that lots of seniors are currently working on projects and anticipate getting those turned in and completed over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So.
And those students that are having difficulty, definitely there's a connection system attached to those individuals, so they are meeting what they need to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the staff has done just a great job at all high school campuses, from the academy to Margaret Hudson to our actual high school campus, of really making personal contact with those students and helping them get started on projects and have adult staff members monitoring those projects and keeping track of them very closely. So
I think we'd all like to know what in June.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
okay, we can bring some more, and those numbers will be more concrete because we'll have better data by then. So
I really, at some point, hopefully we can bring data to you eventually that has 100%, because that's really our goal. Every single student get to graduate. So
Yep.
I appreciate you bringing this to us.
Thank you, Mr. Officer.
thank you.
Next item under Student Services, no, I don't believe it's Mr. Blackburn. It's Miss Luann Goodacre.
Mr. Blackburn can see over the podium. Tonight I want to bring you for discussion and motion to approve purchase of a food truck vending from Vending Trucks Inc. at the cost of $157,790. This truck will be used as an extra line for the high school. We're kind of trying to spread the kids out a little, give them different places to eat. But the biggest thing is we'll be able to use it for summer feeding. The USDA is wanting summer feeding to go mobile, so we can go to the kids and they not have to come to us, because if children don't have money for food, they don't have money for gas either. And so what we're hoping is to find some pockets in the community and go to them.
That's my understanding. There'll be no cooking on this or nothing?
No, we'll do most of the cooking in the high school kitchen, and this will be mostly just vending, keeping it warm and serving it.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second. We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of a food truck from Vending Trucks Inc. for a cost of $157,790. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes?
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item.
Thank you. The next item I need to bring to you is paid lunch equity. It's not near as much fun as a vending truck. With the 2010 Reauthorization Act of Child Nutrition, the federal government wants us to get closer what we charge paid lunches to what they pay us for free lunches. We have to turn in a tool every year. Luckily, the last 3 years we've had an exemption because we've had more than our 3-month operating balance. This year, because of the high school and the renovations, we were below our 3-month operating balance, and so they required us to turn in the tool. This will cause us to need to raise elementary, middle, and high school student paid lunches about 10 cents, and that will get us to our paid lunch equity for the next school year. We will not have to raise prices for the early childhood children.
This is information only, so you would bring action back to us at the point that that's determined, correct?
Correct. It's been determined, but I can bring it back in July, if you'd like, June or July, and we can bring the motion to raise them 10 cents.
Okay.
Okay?
So information only. Thank you so much.
Ms. Goodacre, I think it would be really important to the board and myself to know kind of some history when you bring it back, so that we know when the last time we've raised lunch prices or food prices, because I think that would be interesting to know, and then maybe do a little bit of comparison in the area, because I think I'd want to know kind of what those comparisons are. I know we're very competitive as far as where we're at, but I think it would be nice to know kind of where we're at.
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item under Business Services, Ms. Natalie Ena.
Good evening. As we're drawing closer to the end of the fiscal year, this is a very exciting time for finance. We're really starting to scrutinize everything and try and figure out where we're going to end up at the end of the school year. General fund, we're now at 81% of our state aid allocation. Just a reminder, our initial allocation was $46.9 million, so we'll have 2 more payments to finish out May and June. Ad valorem, we did receive our final last large collection in April, so pretty much everything going forward will be in back tax collections. So we ended up just slightly above, edged out where we were at this time last year in ad valorem. In our federal sources of revenue, we're still playing a little bit of catch up from our Title I reimbursement. There's a little bit of a glitch at the State Department with processing our application and getting our budget approved, but we are now starting to receive our claims for that area. And just as a side note, we did receive our preliminary Title I allocation for school year 15-16, and it is about $30,000 more from where we our 14-15 allocations, and that does not include whatever we do carry over from the end of this year. So that's just kind of a preliminary allocation going forward for next school year. Building fund, again, same situation with our ad valorem. This is definitely good news for this fund, that we collected and received what we anticipated that we thought, since our building fund does have such a limited revenue stream. Child nutrition, up in all 3 major categories, which is definitely a credit to our child nutrition department for continuing to offer expansive and creative programs to our students to get them to stay on campus and support our child nutrition efforts. General fund expenditures, you can see pretty much everything is on track. The one thing I did want to point out was in the 500 object series, which is where we code a lot of staff travel, professional development, that has curtailed a little bit from where we were last year. But you'll notice in the 300 object series, which is outside contracted services, that area has actually gone up a little bit as the district has chosen to focus more bringing professional development inside the district to service more of our employees versus just being able to send a selected few out for PD. Building fund, our 2009 bond fund is rapidly dwindling at this point. We're pretty much just receiving our annual allocations in areas of technology and instruction and maintenance, so we are having to rely a little bit more on our building fund to get us through some of our routine maintenance items. So you can see the impact of that in this fund. And finally, in child nutrition, our supplies, food expenditures are up a little bit from where we were last year. Ms. Goodacre touched on the impact that the construction and renovation of the high school student union and cafeteria had on the overall expenses in child nutrition. And you can also see the workers' comp expense that they are paying for out of their own fund. And obviously we have about a month and a half left, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, we are fully expecting to be at 14% ending fund balance, but we still do have a month and a half left, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Next item.
My next item is to ask for a budget increase for our child nutrition fund in the amount of $157,000. Ms. Goodacre brought the bid for the food truck, and in order to get that ordered this fiscal year and get it delivered in time for the school year, they need to put in the purchase order as soon as possible. So I'm asking for that budget increase.
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the increase to the child nutrition operating budget by $157,000. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Next item is Ms. Donna Dollahan.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. I'm here to give you the Treasurer's Report as of the end of April. Cash balances report shows a total of $52,620,000 in assets for the district. The investment ledger shows district investments that total $39,990,000. Our fund security and deposit report shows a total of $78,038,000 in collateral pledged to the district. Our deposits requiring collateral total $40,467,000, leaving an available balance of collateral in the amount of $37,571,000.
Are there any questions? This is an information item, but certainly would entertain questions.
No. Good.
Thank you.
My next item is the activity fund reports as at the end of April. The receipts total $5,289,000 for the year so far. Disbursements total $4,643,000, leaving a balance in the activity funds of $2,647,000.
Any questions on this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Kathy Metavallis.
Good evening. My first item tonight are the encumbrance reports for all funds for the period of time April 23rd through May 7th, 2015. Would request your approval of those encumbrance orders totaling $434,002.58.
Okay, are there any questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the encumbrance reports for all funds for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Next item are the change reports for all funds for the same period of time, April 23rd through May 7th. Would request your approval of these change orders totaling a decrease of $256,398.07.
Questions?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the change order reports for general fund, cooperative fund, building fund, workers' compensation, bond funds, gift funds, and child nutrition fund for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Ed Fager. This is information item.
That's right. Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I have 3 policies tonight that I'm bringing for first reading, which are would be information items. Pretty much these all relate to the same change in our policies. The first one is policy number 4090, drug testing of students participating in competitive physical extracurricular activities. And this policy is being amended to add a provision which clarifies the procedure used when a student selected for random testing is either unwilling or unable to produce a specimen when needed for testing. There is also a change in the consequences for a second or subsequent violation of this policy. We currently have an provision that requires an evaluation by a substance abuse professional, and we're modifying that to be an optional evaluation, clarifying that that will be at the student's expense, and then shortening the suspension period if the student does have that evaluation and completes the recommended treatment or counseling program successfully. We've sent these revisions to our legal counsel for review.
As is always, when it's the first reading, after review, the board then can make contact to you and have any question that we might have addressed by you.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions before we move forward? All right, we'll move to the next item.
Okay. Policy number 4310 is our student alcohol and drug use testing policy. And this is policy primarily addresses when a student is suspected to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and we actually send them for testing. doesn't involve a random testing program. But we've added the same provision that we included in the first policy to clarify the process and the waiting time for that.
If there are no questions, we'll go ahead and move forward to the next one.
And the last one tonight is policy 5370, which has to do with testing our employees and applicants with regard to use of alcohol or illegal substances. And again, we're adding a similar provision to that policy as well.
Again, if there are questions, the board then can contact you to address those, and those
Yes.
are going to be reviewed by legal counsel.
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is new business. Seeing that we do not have any, we'll move to the next item, which is to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.